Okay, today we're going to talk about the current food illness outbreak and ways to work around that. Grow your own food. We love for everybody to grow their own food and become as self-sufficient as possible, and then you don't have to worry about what's going on in the grocery stores. So let's start with some easy.
So the first thing we wanted to mention was microgreens, because that's something that a lot of people have been doing recently. We don't personally do the microgreens, but on YouTube you can find plenty of videos on people explaining how to do that. So I think that's a good, easy first thing someone can do to start growing some of their own greens and vegetables at home.
Also, regrowing items from the grocery store. So you could buy your celery, chop the top off, grow the bottom again, and you'll have new vegetable matter coming out. You can do that with a lettuce head in water.
Beet greens.
Green onions. Green onions though, and sweet potatoes. So the green onions we do in the ground though, but you just grab them at your local grocery store. You can grab sweet potatoes at the grocery store and grow them. For their leaves, these are they're very good as a salad green. There are ways you can divide them so that you can make a lot more of them. And I don't think we have any videos on doing that. Maybe we should make a video on that next.
And honestly, the ones that we have spread on their own. We really have not needed
we haven't needed to do that in a long while.
To make sweet potato slips out.
So we have a whole field here. Another thing is turmeric and ginger you can buy at your store. Put the little tuber in the ground and then you'll have nice leaves to eat and the tubers for medicinal benefits.
And then the other thing I'm going to show you is the sword leaf lettuce. Now the reason I mention this one for anyone who's in Florida like us, because this is a variety I've found that's much better to grow here in the heat. As you can see, it's kind of at the end of its season and it's bolting. And also as it gets older, the leaves do get tougher and it gets more bitter, but definitely when they're young, I've found that this is probably one of the best lettuce alternatives I've found that actually, when it's young and tender, still tastes a lot like lettuce. So I've used it in salads and on burgers and sandwiches and stuff. But this one also grows really well as far as, again, in the heat. And it also, as you can see, because I've got I don't know how many plants this is popping up all over the place, it definitely reseeds itself. So I probably had, for maybe 5 years now, I bought the plant once and it's reseeded itself every year. So I really recommend this one for particularly people in Florida. This is just a good lettuce alternative.
Some of the other good alternatives for leaves for salad would be cranberry hibiscus. This has a slight sour taste to it, but very healthy. And your roselle.
Yeah, and then the roselle, if we want to take a closer look at that. Here's the roselle. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of this growing in several spots here. Again, it has a very tart flavor to it, but yeah, you can use it just as a little extra flavor in a salad. I've even used it in curries before. And then of course this is the one that makes the little calyxes, which can be used for tea, and that tends to happen, or they create the calyxes probably more around November we get those in. So all in all, it's also a very useful plant, and again, very heat tolerant for people in Florida as well. So that's another good one for here.
So another one that is one of my favorites would be the passion flower leaves. These leaves, I don't know, I just really like them. These are very tasty, and you can use the flowers for tea as well. And another favorite, of course, is moringa. Totally an awesome green and very nutritional. So here we have, this is one of our smaller ones, chaya. This is a leaf that you have to cook though. This an edible green, but you must cook it. You can look up the directions online for that. Here's another one. This is Brazilian or sisu spinach. They say, I mean, you can eat it raw, but they say to cook it as well. And here's katuk. Another one they say probably should cook. Okay, and here we have jewels of opar. They have beautiful little seeds. It's usually a lot more colorful. And the seeds will deposit themselves, and you'll have this plant everywhere if you want. The leaves can be eaten raw or cooked. And it's just a beautiful plant to have.
So another one that has edible leaves on it as well, and not everyone knows, is the amaranth. So this one I believe was the red edible amaranth. So I haven't actually done the leaves yet, and this is one you're supposed to cook as well. Most people know it for, it makes the little grains there, and that's usually what amaranth is used for. Not a lot of people know the leaves are actually edible too. Actually, if you look over there, that's the coral fountain amaranth that I planted, which probably, it looks like that's probably, I'll need to check for some seeds in there because I think that's ready. You can't really see, it's like kind of at the end of its season, so you can't see the leaves very well, but that's another one that you could grow in the garden too. And it seems to grow relatively easy, again, in the hot Florida climate, so that's another one we recommend.
All right, so here we have our longevity spinach, which is not technically a spinach. And these grow very easily from cuttings. And we can show you the Okinawan spinach, which is also not technically a spinach. That's right here. Another one that's very easy to grow from cuttings. It has the beautiful purple leaves, and
both of those do have a lot of health benefits to them too.
Right.
Another plant is the green and red Malabar spinach. That one is not one we're currently growing this year, but that's another green that you can eat. That one, though, I will say is rather mucilaginous, so it is kind of particular in terms of if you're picky about texture. That is one thing I'd mention about it. But that one's even kind of like a vining plant, so it's pretty looking too, but yeah, that's another one that's probably particular for taste.
Another one would be Hoja Santa. Now, this one is also called the root beer plant, and you can make wraps out of their leaves, and it can be somewhat invasive, but we use it as a chop and drop as well. So green fertilizer, and because we have an overabundance of it, and it dies back in the winter unless it's in our greenhouse. This is our Egyptian spinach here, grown from seed this year. It usually gets pretty tall, and it has some nice pods with the seeds in it that you can regrow. So we've got our asparagus back here, kind of being weeded out here, but we've got it all growing there. You can get your crowns on Etsy or Tractor Supply or even Walmart sometimes, but it's a little later in the season. But we love our asparagus. Okay, here's another great edible, would be Sochan, S-O-C-H-A-N. It has beautiful flowers too, and the leaves are edible. In some of the outbreaks, there are berry problems, so we always suggest growing your own berries. So you have really cheap blueberry plants that you can get at any nursery, and they're always good for lots of blueberries. We've got a couple. And then you can get your raspberry, blackberries, strawberries. Just get what you can to feed yourself. It doesn't take long for them to grow and produce. So another fruiting tree that we have would be mulberries. We have many varieties here. We have bunches of the trees, and it produces lots of fruit, as well as you can eat the leaves in your salad as well as a green, and there's many nutritional benefits to them. So.
And another one, since the basil is something within this outbreak that's been being affected, growing a pot of basil is a really easy way you can get around all of this too. That's an easy thing to do. And also, if you're someone who's in the Florida area or in a more heat area with a lot more heat, like we are, the African blue basil and the blue spice basil by far seem to be the best for like the Florida humidity. So as you can see, this is all basil here. And I like this variety a lot because it's very, very similar to your typical, culinary cooking basil in taste. This is the one typically I get the most of when I dry it at the end of the year to use in cooking and stuff. So this one I definitely recommend if you're in a very hot, humid area. But otherwise, as I said, even just, getting a basil plant, getting basil seeds and growing something in a pot, that's a really simple thing you can do to avoid having to buy basil at the grocery store. And I was also going to mention as well, with a lot of other culinary herbs, you can do the same because historically we have had issues with that in the past too, things being contaminated with things and the such. So another really easy thing you can do with whether it's rosemary or oregano, a lot of those cooking herbs, you can get them, just grow them in a pot and, even if you're just keeping them inside the house or whatever. So that's a really easy thing you can also do to grow your own edibles.
Okay, so now we would love to just have everybody start growing their own food, see what you can come up with.
And again, as I said, like with the herbs, it's really easy. Some of these things you don't even necessarily have to put in the ground if you don't have the space. You can still grow stuff in pots too. So you can just start with the simplest thing you can do right now.
Right. And I know a lot of the plants that we mentioned are more difficult to access. I mean, you can get them probably on Etsy if you're in other parts of the country. And I know Florida has a lot of these more often, these plants.
Yeah, that
but
are perennial.
Ask your nursery and see what they can come up with, or go Etsy, eBay. Thanks for watching, and let's get growing some food.